Right, some breaking news coming through. Israel's Prime Minister says he will seek parliamentary immunity in 3 corruption cases. He's just outlined what is a rare and contentious move and likely to delay any potential trial against Mr Netanyahu for months. Netanyahu, if you recall, was indicted on charges of bribery, fraud and breach of trust in November. And then he survived a leadership test last week after the Likud party decided to retain him. Imran Khan in West Jerusalem for us to take us through this. So he's seeking parliamentary immunity. What does that mean? There has to be a vote?
There will be a vote eventually, but let me just take you through what exactly unfolded. Now, he had until midnight local time tonight to ask for this parliamentary immunity. It's been a to and fro process with him. Sometimes he said he wasn't going to ask for it because he'd done nothing wrong. Other times he said immunity is the cornerstone of democracy. He has 4 hours before the deadline asked for parliamentary immunity. The process is actually quite straightforward. He just files a letter with the Speaker of the Knesset, the Parliament, and that process then begins. Where it gets complicated, very complicated in fact, is what happens next. Now, Israel is going into its 3rd election in a year because they weren't able to form a coalition government. That election happens on March the 2nd. So any committee that will hear Netanyahu's petition to be granted immunity won't be formed until there's a government. That might take until April. And then after that, it has to be heard by the committee. The committee have to bring it out of committee to a plenum, and then it has to be voted on by the Knesset members. He's got a political fight on his hands at this stage because already people like Avigdor Lieberman, one of the kingmakers of Israeli politics here, if he had supported Netanyahu, they wouldn't be a 3rd election right now. There would be a coalition government, but he hasn't, has already said he's not going to support the petition for immunity. So it's been divided along party lines as well. So all of this pushes back any potential trial Netanyahu might face. But he was very clear in his speech. He said immunity isn't forever. It's just for whilst he's in Parliament so he can get on with the business of running the country if he wins the re-election.
And that's a big if as well. I mean, he hasn't won or lost elections the last 2 elections, though he did decisively win the leadership challenge in the Likud party. He's just this, he's a political survivor, isn't he?
He is an absolute political survivor. He's been ruling Israel for nearly a decade now, and part of his speech was very Netanyahu. It was very bullish, it was very cocky, it was very confident. He said that there were no other leaders, that it was him that brought a prosperity to Israel. He talked about the gas pipeline that was going to open. He talked about his achievements, and it was a real showmanship. And when you do speak to ordinary Israelis here, a lot of them will tell you that actually he's doing a good job and they will support him. However, there are a lot of people on the left who centre-left, centrist parties who want Netanyahu out because they feel that he's been there for far too long. And he actually said this in his speech. He goes, the only other candidates against me, their only qualities is they're not me.
OK, thank you for the update. Imran Khan in West Jerusalem.